I was sitting in my office one quiet afternoon, the hum of the computer fan and the occasional rustle of papers filling the space. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear the faint murmur of voices from the living room. My teenage daughter Jessica was chatting with her friends, their laughter occasionally breaking through the low hum of conversation. I wasn't paying much attention at first, absorbed in a spreadsheet on my screen, but then I caught a snippet of Jessica's words that made my blood run cold. "Yeah, my mom's been taking money from my dad's accounts for years," she said, her voice casual, almost dismissive. "She says it's no big deal, but I think she's just addicted to shopping or something." My fingers froze over the keyboard. The words echoed in my mind, sharp and unrelenting. Patricia, my wife of nearly 2 decades, had been stealing from me for years. The shock hit me like a freight train, and I felt a wave of nausea rise in my throat. My heart pounded as anger surged within me, hot and uncontrollable. I wanted to storm out of the office to demand answers right then and there, but I forced myself to stay seated, to breathe. I couldn't let Jessica know I'd overheard. Not yet. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept circling back to Jessica's words. How much money had Patricia taken? How long had this been going on? And why hadn't I noticed? That night, I lay in bed beside Patricia, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. She seemed so peaceful, so normal, as if nothing was wrong. How could she have been hiding something like this from me? The next morning, I woke up determined to uncover the truth. I called in sick to work, telling Patricia I wasn't feeling well. As soon as she left to run errands, I locked myself in my office and began digging through our financial records. I started with our joint bank accounts, scrolling through months of transactions. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Groceries, utilities, the occasional dinner out. But as I dug deeper, I began to notice patterns. Large withdrawals, unexplained transfers, and purchases at high-end stores I didn't recognize. My stomach churned as I tallied up the amounts. Thousands of dollars gone. And that was just the beginning. I moved on to our credit card statements, and that's when the full extent of Patricia's deception became clear. She had opened multiple credit cards in my name, maxing them out one after another. The balances were staggering, and the interest alone was enough to make my head spin. I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. How could she do this to us, to our family? That evening, I sat Jessica down and asked her what she knew. At first, she hesitated, her eyes darting away from mine, but eventually she opened up. She told me that Patricia had been taking money for years, using it to fund her shopping addiction. Jessica had known for a while, but Patricia had convinced her it was normal, even necessary. "You wouldn't understand," Jessica admitted, her voice trembling. She said it was her way of coping with stress. My heart sank. Not only had Patricia betrayed me, but she had also manipulated our daughter into keeping her secret. I felt a surge of protectiveness toward Jessica mixed with a deep sadness. How had our family come to this? Over the next few days, I began to formulate a plan. I knew I needed to protect myself and Jessica, but I also wanted to confront Patricia in a way that would leave no room for denial. I meticulously documented every instance of theft I could find, printing out bank statements and credit card bills. I contacted a lawyer who advised me to open a separate bank account in my name and transfer my paychecks there. I also began to gather evidence of Patricia's spending, taking screenshots of her online shopping accounts and cataloging the items she had purchased. In a calculated move, I transferred a significant amount of money into a new joint account, one that Patricia didn't know about. I knew she would take the bait. She couldn't resist. Sure enough, within days, the money was gone. I felt a grim satisfaction as I printed out the transaction history. This was the proof I needed. The confrontation came during a family dinner with Patricia's parents present. I had planned it carefully, wanting witnesses to her reaction. As we sat around the table, the conversation light and casual, I calmly brought up the topic of our finances. Patricia's face froze for a moment, but she quickly recovered, laughing it off. "What are you talking about?" she said, her tone dismissive. "You're being paranoid." I reached into the folder I had placed beside my chair and pulled out the stack of documents. I laid them out on the table one by one: bank statements, credit card bills, screenshots of her shopping accounts. Patricia's laughter died away as she stared at the evidence. Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. "How dare you?" she shouted, her voice trembling. "You've been spying on me?" The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Jessica sat frozen, her eyes wide with fear. Patricia's parents looked between us, their expressions a mix of confusion and concern. I kept my voice steady as I laid out the facts, detailing the thousands of dollars she had stolen and the credit cards she had opened in my name. Patricia's anger turned to desperation as she tried to defend herself, but the evidence was undeniable. In the end, she stormed out of the house, packing a suitcase and declaring that she would get what she deserved in the divorce. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness as I watched her go. The woman I had loved and trusted for so many years was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. In the days that followed, I reported the fraud to the credit card companies and began the process of filing for divorce. Jessica chose to stay with me, and together we navigated the emotional fallout of the situation. It wasn't easy. There were tears, arguments, and moments of doubt, but we leaned on each other, determined to rebuild our lives. To my surprise, Patricia's family reached out to offer their support. They were shocked by her actions, but wanted to maintain a relationship with Jessica and me. Their kindness was a small comfort in the midst of the chaos. As the dust settled, I realized that while betrayal had shattered our family, it had also opened the door to new beginnings. Jessica and I focused on rebuilding our relationship, emphasizing honesty and trust. We talked openly about what had happened, and I made sure she knew that none of it was her fault. Together, we forged a path forward, one that prioritized our bond and the values of integrity and trust that we would carry with us into the future. It wasn't the life I had envisioned, but it was ours, and we were determined to make a good one.